It was in the early 90s when his desire to support people with disabilities grew after witnessing the struggles of his cousin brother, who was affected by epilepsy and experienced maltreatment from his own family and the local community. Please welcome Mr. Moses Warusimbi, founder of Special Children, Special People Foundation, on Up Close with Eva Nakato, proudly sponsored by Vice Versa Global. Hello, Mr. Moses.
Hello.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
So I would like you to take us briefly at the genesis of how it all began.
Special Children started as a dream when I was a boy. I actually didn't know that I would get where I am today. But it's a dream that came after realizing the abuse of our cousin who was within our own home. Yeah, so it was really intense that I thought I need to come out and help such children. The abuse was that because of the community stigma, our parents were forced to lock him in a house. Community kids were not playing with him, but eventually, because of the intense of the stigma, thinking that maybe we're also part of what is going through, so the community also started not allowing their children to interact with us. And because of that pressure, so the parents chose to at least put him away such that we can have peace with the community. Yeah.
What happened like after experiencing all that?
After developing love for him and thinking I need to support, he used to escort me in the morning as I was taking a taxi to school. But we don't know actually what happened to Justin because he escorted me and disappeared in between. Then I think maybe he fell in a ditch, what I would call a pit latrine. We are not really sure because he was someone that was common within the community.
Someone out there who is trying to understand, who cannot describe who a person living with disability is. So can you briefly take us through that?
Apart from, of course, some people that have physical disabilities that you can easily see and say, okay, maybe this person doesn't have a hand, a leg. But things that are related to mental, we would advise parents to take in their children to the hospital such that they can have the tests. And then it is only the doctors that are allowed to determine the type of disability a child has. But maybe a tip I would share is, as a parent, you need to be very observant with your child. Like there are what we call developmental stages of a child. For example, a child is 1 year and is not even trying to crawl, you know. So you just think that maybe there is a problem and you need to take them to a doctor for them to interpret what could be exactly the problem.
So in this Ugandan setting, how would you describe the struggles of these people?
Things are tending to improve day by day, but of course still there are some people that have a negative attitude about children and people with disabilities. Some people take it as a curse. Some people tend to think that maybe the children were handed in to ghosts so that they can, witchcraft, so that they can achieve the wealth they are running about with. You know, so there are a lot of attachments and myths that are related to disability. And that would be one of the lead causes. And that is why you see that even within our own families, you find that some of these children are abused. Yeah.
Are there any practical interventions that you've attempted in regards to the challenges these people face?
Yeah, of course, we're doing a lot of advocacy and we also do door-to-door awareness about disability. Way back when schools were running, we had also started on a program of developing ambassadors in different schools. And basically, basing on my experience, I was going to school, but then back home, one of our cousins wasn't going to school, neither was he allowed to socialize. So we are thinking if we get up and start training the young ones, the young generation, they will understand that disability is a health condition and not a curse.
The children or the young people that you're helping, how did you manage to reach out to them, and how many in your estimation, or if you have an exact figure?
We get to know about the different children that could probably be having a different behavior, and that is how people come to us, and then we give the necessary support. On estimates, I think we've reached over 900 children, yeah, with disabilities.
And they are all living in these premises?
Not really. Like you see, we have a small center. So we try to support, but also we get the parents and families involved, such that this child, after the rehabilitation, they can continue with it within their homes. There's an opportunity for them to get integrated and probably given an opportunity to be value to the community.
So besides education,
Yeah.
are there any other projects or activities that they are part of?
Yeah, of course, we have vocational skilling. It is really an important because, like, when you look at our setting, we don't follow a school curriculum, but we are trying to train them to be independent. Some of the things that you would find really normal for you, they are a challenge within us in the children that we're working with. For example, using a toilet, feeding, you know, the social interaction, many things that you might not even think that someone has a challenge. For example, children with autism, they are normally loners. They don't want to associate, they don't want to interact. But I mean, how is this child going to live in a community when he always wants to be alone? So these are some of the things that we try to train them towards community integration. What
about the parents of these children? Because when you were in the beginning, you told us about how your cousin's brother, how he was mistreated, something like that, by his own family members. Do you have like any that are doing the same to their children with disabilities? And if so, do they later on come back to you after you've tried to offer any assistance?
Yeah, of course, especially mental disability has a lot of challenges in Uganda. For example, it is only changing now, but before, a man was a breadwinner of the family. And then the same man comes up and says, I don't have such a child in our family. You need to move out and find the real father and background of this child. So the mother will have to walk out because she's being disowned by their own. And then he has to go find something to do, find some work or whatever. Now, the psychological bit is that this mother is looking at this child as someone who caused a problem to the marriage breakup. So because of the suffering that they are going through, they are not going to love these children. Because, you know, every time they look at them, they look at someone who really sabotaged the good family relationship that they had with their husband. So when we take some of the children in, we start transforming them, rehabilitating them, training them on how they can live. And in that way, some parents actually come in and start crying because they didn't believe that their child can transform. So when we do that, of course, when the parent goes back to their community, they will testify on what they've seen, the changes in this child. And when the child is taken back to the community, they will have a positive attitude. And also we do some empowerment to the parents of these children. Of course, we encourage them to form groups whereby their voices can be heard when they group. Yeah, we also do other empowerment programs like vocational skilling and trying to find markets for what they are producing. And we also started a SACCO, a saving and credit scheme, whereby they meet, save some money, and then it's passed on to one person. Every time they are meeting, some are bringing back money, some are taking it.
Do you have any children or young people who are having more than one disability?
Yeah, it is common. It is really common, and they are there. Not one, not two.
Here at the organization?
Yes, even here. We have some children that could probably have cerebral palsy, but they also have autism. Yeah.
Tell us about those barriers that have hindered your work since you started in this line of work, and how did you manage to overcome them?
People are not yet well conversant that denying a child with a disability an opportunity to go to school, to socialize, things related to that. So that is one of the biggest barriers, because some of the people and families are looking at these children as, I don't know how I would call it, But, they don't believe in them. They are not given an opportunity. So one of the challenge is really policy implementation. When you go to the books, when you go to the Constitution, the Child Act and all those, the children with disabilities and people with disabilities are really covered. But when it comes to putting the policy into practice is the challenge. You'll find different people with different titles. Of course, they have authority, but maybe they are not aware. Maybe they are ignorant. Yeah, so overcoming it, we are trying to do a lot of advocacy, because this is where it all starts. We are trying to do a lot of advocacy. We move out to churches. Any opportunity we find, we talk about the right of a person with a disability.
So what have been your greatest achievements since you started this kind of work?
Amongst the many is me seeing a child reintegrated to their community and being useful. For example, maybe these people didn't think that a child can be able to fetch water, cook, wash clothes, among others. So when I visit this family and I find this child totally active, I call that as the greatest achievement. On the parent side, at least we've been able to change the attitude of parents towards their own children and the community at large. Because we use the same parents to run as our champions towards advocacy. They come out to give their testimony, how it was before and how it is after. Yeah.
So I would like you to give us a word or two to those people who are having people with disabilities in their communities.
A child with a disability, a person with a disability is anyone ordinary. It's just like me, just like you. All they need is equal opportunity and also giving them access. When we're talking about equal opportunities, you're not going to tell someone in a wheelchair to take steps. It is practically not possible. But the equal opportunities I'm talking about, if there are steps, let us also have a ramp where this person can also get access to wherever they want to go. So I think if we give equal opportunities to everyone, the world will be a better place for all of us.
Wow, thank you so much, Mr. Moses.
I appreciate
We wish you luck in your line of work. But before we end the interview, how do you see yourself in the next 5 or 10 years?
We are working on a couple of projects. We've been able to secure at least half an acre of land, and we are working towards setting up an inclusive school, because the space here is a bit limited. So when we set up this inclusive school, we are looking at peer-to-peer learning. The challenge that we've been having here is because of limited space, we can't get in as many children as we would wish. Some of these children can easily learn from their age mates than what I would try to teach them. So we are working on setting up a center for these children and also for the community, whereby everyone is going to come up and see that there is really potential in people with disabilities.
Wow.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
And for you out there who is willing to support and help in whichever way that you feel you can, please inbox us on our social media handles, Vice Versa Global, Up Close with Eva Nakato, and we can see how we can as well contribute to making the world a better place. Thank you for watching. Eva Nakato is my name, and until next time, bye-bye. Mr. Moses Walusimbi indeed reminds us that people with disabilities do matter and that we should do all we can to support them. If you would like to support him and his organization, please inbox us on our social media handles, Vice Versa Global and Up Close with Eva Nakato. Do not forget to like, share and subscribe to our YouTube channel, Vice Versa Global. And until next time, bye-bye. Bye-bye.